They build their empires on illusions, towering palaces made of borrowed admiration, fragile masks carved from other people's validation. Narcissists are masters of the grand performance, the ceaseless demand to be seen, admired, revered. They paint themselves as gods in their own mythologies, weaving stories where they are the heroes, the victims, the untouchables. But the truth? The truth is that their power is paper thin, a house of cards trembling at the slightest breath of reality, because their entire existence depends on a single, devastating fragility that cannot withstand being ignored. Not just any kind of ignoring, the kind that is quiet, absolute, and final. The kind of ignoring that does not react, does not engage, does not play along. This is the chasm they fear more than anything. A void where their reflection cannot be found. In a world where they are starved of attention, where the spotlight is taken from them, narcissists crumble, and they crumble fast. Why? Because their identity is not their own. It is a reflection, a copy, a patchwork of borrowed images stitched together by others' gazes and judgments. Remove the mirror, and they vanish. Carl Jung taught us that the self is composed of many layers: the ego, the persona, the shadow, and the true self beneath them all. The narcissist clings desperately to the persona, the mask they present to the world, because it is the only thing holding their fragmented psyche together. But the persona is brittle. It is a facade built to deceive, not to endure. So what destroys a narcissist in seconds? It is a refusal to feed their hunger for admiration, the silent, unyielding act of not giving them what they crave. When you stop reacting to their provocations, stop validating their self-importance, stop chasing their approval, you pull the rug out from under their entire reality. Without your engagement, their mask loses its shape. Their stories lose their meaning. Their power dissipates like smoke. This is why narcissists rage when ignored. They lash out, desperate to reclaim the reflection they've lost. They twist, manipulate, gaslight, and provoke. But no amount of noise can replace the quiet absence of your attention. There is a profound lesson here, not just for confronting narcissists, but for reclaiming your own power. Because every one of us has faced the temptation to seek validation outside ourselves, to build our identities on the applause of others rather than the strength of our own being. Jung would say that true individuation, the path to wholeness, requires breaking free from the tyranny of the external gaze. It requires turning inward to find a self that does not need to be reflected to exist, to become so whole, so anchored, so clear that the absence of others' approval no longer shakes you. This is the antidote, not only to narcissists, but to the chains of insecurity and dependence they exploit. Imagine the power of a mind so strong it terrifies the narcissist, not because it fights harder, but because it refuses to fight at all, because it stands still, unmoved by the storms of manipulation and ego, because it does not yield its peace for the sake of a fractured ego's demand. This refusal is a weapon forged from clarity, discipline, and self-mastery, and it dismantles the narcissist's world in seconds. To wield it, you must first understand your own psyche, your shadows, your fears, your wounds, and own them without shame or denial. You must refuse to be the mirror that reflects their illusion. You must build a presence so solid that their attacks glance off like raindrops on rock. This is not about defeating another person. It is about liberating yourself. The narcissist thrives on chaos and distraction. They collapse when met with calm and indifference. When you master this, you move from victim to sovereign. And in this sovereignty, the narcissist's power dissolves. Because what destroys a narcissist in seconds is not aggression or confrontation. It is silence. It is stillness. It is the unbreakable refusal to play the game they invented. Let's dive deeper into the abyss where the narcissist's mask unravels and your own mind becomes a fortress, impenetrable, sovereign, and serene. Narcissism is not merely arrogance or self-obsession. It is a psychological prison forged by trauma, neglect, and deep-seated insecurity. The narcissist's world is a fragile castle built upon a foundation of fear and fragility, disguised by grandiosity and control. Nietzsche once wrote, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster." Narcissists embody this paradox, a monstrous facade to hide a terrified child within. To dismantle their power, you must transcend the battlefield of reaction. Reactivity is their playground, their weapon of choice. Each word they provoke, each slight they manufacture, is bait designed to awaken your defenses and pull you into their storm. But once you recognize their game, you stop dancing on their strings. This is where emotional detachment becomes your shield. It is not indifference born of coldness, but the cultivated art of non-attachment, seeing their provocations as shadows passing through, not storms that uproot your calm. Like the Buddha in the storm, you remain unshaken, observing without judgment, responding not with rage or fear, but with deliberate silence. Your silence is not submission, it is sovereignty. It says, "I refuse to feed your hunger for control." But how do you cultivate this indomitable mind? How do you build a spirit so resilient that it terrifies manipulation itself? First, know your own darkness. Jung's shadow is not a demon to be feared, but a part of you to be integrated. Your insecurities, your fears, your cravings for approval, these are the waters in which manipulation grows. Facing them with brutal honesty diffuses the power narcissists hold over you. Second, cultivate clarity. The narcissist thrives in confusion and chaos. They twist truths and weaponize ambiguity. Your weapon is simplicity and clarity. Speak your truth plainly. Stand firm in your boundaries and refuse to be dragged into their labyrinth of lies. Third, develop discipline. Emotional strength is forged not in moments of crisis, but in daily practice. Meditate, reflect, create rituals that root you in your center. Discipline is the backbone of resilience. Fourth, act with purpose. Narcissists feed on hesitation and doubt. When you act decisively, whether in setting boundaries, walking away, or claiming your power, you dismantle their narrative of control. Finally, practice gratitude and adaptability. Gratitude anchors you in abundance, not scarcity. Adaptability keeps you fluid, able to respond to shifting tactics without losing your core. This alchemy transforms the victim into the victor. You do not break the narcissist by fighting them. You break their spell by refusing to be their reflection. You become the unmoved mountain, while their storms rage and fade. And here lies the ultimate power. A mind so strong it terrifies not because it dominates others, but because it cannot be dominated. We must journey deeper, because mastery over the narcissist is mastery over yourself. And mastery over yourself is the rarest power in a world addicted to distraction and external approval. Carl Jung taught us that beneath the layers of persona and shadow lies the self, the center of your being, whole and unfractured. This self is not constructed by others' opinions or their fleeting judgments. It is not measured by how loudly you speak or how fiercely you fight. It is a quiet, radiant core, a wellspring of peace, power, and authenticity. To access this self, you must cultivate radical self-love, not the fluffy, surface-level kind marketed by pop culture, but the deep, unshakable love that comes from knowing yourself fully. Your light and your dark, your strengths and your wounds, your fears and your desires. This self-love is the antidote to the narcissist's poison. Because when you truly love yourself, you no longer seek their approval to feel worthy. You no longer rely on their reflection to define your reality. You stand firmly in your truth, anchored by the certainty of your own value. This is why narcissists are repelled by genuine self-love. It is a mirror they cannot shatter, a reality they cannot rewrite, a power they cannot usurp. But self-love alone is not enough. You must also cultivate what Jung called active imagination, the practice of dialoguing with your unconscious, integrating the parts of yourself you have hidden or rejected. Your shadow, your fears, your anger, your longing, all of these are pieces of your wholeness. When you embrace these parts, you reclaim the energy that narcissists try to steal. You transform weakness into strength, chaos into clarity, fragmentation into unity. This process requires courage, the courage to face your inner darkness without running away, without numbing it, without blaming it. It requires discipline, the commitment to daily practice, reflection, and growth. And it requires vision, the willingness to imagine a self beyond the limits you've known. Through this journey, you become like the ancient alchemists, turning lead into gold, pain into power, silence into song. You no longer react to narcissists because you recognize them not as enemies, but as echoes of the parts of yourself you have mastered. Their attempts to control and manipulate bounce off your armor of self-knowledge. Their chaos becomes background noise to your centered presence. And in this space, you find freedom. Freedom from their games. Freedom from your fears. Freedom to live a life defined not by their illusions, but by your own truth. This is the ultimate transformation Jung speaks of, the alchemy of the soul. Not the destruction of others, but the liberation of yourself. The mind that terrifies manipulation is forged in the crucible of daily discipline. It is built one moment at a time, in choices that seem small but carry the weight of mountains. This is no overnight miracle, no quick fix sold by gurus and charlatans. It is the slow, relentless forging of a spirit unwilling to be moved by anything less than its own truth. First, cultivate mental clarity. Clear away the noise, the endless chatter of doubts, fears, and what-ifs that the narcissist tactics try to amplify. Meditation, journaling, or simple mindful breathing anchor you to the present moment where power lives. In this clarity, you see manipulation for what it is, a shallow attempt to control, not a threat to your being. Second, practice emotional sovereignty. This means owning your feelings without surrendering them to others' whims. When a narcissist tries to provoke anger or guilt, you acknowledge the feeling but refuse to let it dictate your actions. You are the master of your emotional kingdom, not its prisoner. Third, set impenetrable boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are gates you control. Be clear, consistent, and unyielding about what you will accept. A narcissist will test these boundaries, but your discipline is the lock they cannot pick. Fourth, develop selective engagement. You don't have to respond to every jab, every accusation, every drama. Choose your battles like a seasoned general, strategically, with purpose, and only when it moves you closer to peace. Silence, withdrawal, and calm refusal are often more powerful than words. Fifth, anchor yourself in gratitude and purpose. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is lacking to what is abundant. Purpose gives your life direction beyond the narcissist's attempts to derail you. Together, they create an unshakable foundation. And finally, commit to lifelong learning and adaptability. The narcissist may change tactics, but your growth outpaces them. Each challenge is a lesson. Each encounter, an opportunity to deepen your mastery. When you integrate these disciplines, you become a force that is not easily shaken. Your mind becomes a fortress, your heart a sanctuary, your presence a calm sea that no storm can disturb. And in this state, narcissists lose their grip not because you fight harder, but because you refuse to be caught. You transcend their game. You reclaim your power. You become untouchable. This is the power Carl Jung invites us to claim, the power of self-mastery over the illusions of others. It is the path from victim to sovereign, from chaos to clarity, from fragmentation to wholeness. And this, truly, is what destroys a narcissist in seconds. Imagine this. A narcissist throws a cutting remark, a calculated insult designed to chip away at your confidence. The instinct is to defend, to retaliate, to prove yourself. But mastery lies in pause. Pause before reaction is your greatest weapon. In that moment, you are not their puppet, pulled by the strings of ego and provocation. You are a sovereign observer, watching the storm pass without getting swept away. A calm, measured response, or sometimes no response at all, shatters their expectation. It deprives them of the reaction that fuels their power. It is the silence that screams louder than any insult. Next, practice redirecting the conversation. When a narcissist seeks to dominate dialogue, to turn every interaction into a stage for their grandiosity, gently but firmly shift the focus back to facts, to boundaries, to your terms. If they boast or exaggerate, respond with grounded truths, avoiding flattery or confrontation. If they manipulate, call it out calmly, without anger or accusation. Simply name the behavior, like a scientist observing a phenomenon. I notice you're changing the subject. Let's stay on track. This clarity disrupts their narrative. It forces them to face the reality they usually evade. Another tool, refusal to engage in their victim. Victimizer drama. Narcissists thrive in polarized roles, casting themselves as victims or heroes to gain sympathy and control. You refuse to play along. You neither rescue nor persecute. You hold your neutrality like a shield. When they seek to provoke guilt, respond with compassion for yourself. I am responsible for my own feelings and choices. This statement, simple, firm, reclaims your agency. In every encounter, your presence is your power. Stand tall, maintain eye contact, and speak with calm confidence. Your body language tells a story louder than words. The story of someone who knows their worth and refuses to be diminished. Remember, narcissists feed on chaos and distraction. When you bring calm and focus, you starve their influence. When you hold your boundaries, you collapse their illusions of control. And when you walk away physically or emotionally, you reclaim your sovereignty completely. Sometimes the strongest message is absence. This is not about winning an argument or proving a point. It is about protecting your peace, honoring your truth, and living free of their manipulation. Through these practices, your mind becomes a fortress, your spirit unbreakable, your presence a beacon of clarity in the fog of deception. And in this clarity, the narcissist's power dissolves because you no longer play their game. Begin with a discipline of self-awareness. Each day, carve out moments to observe your thoughts, emotions, and reactions without judgment. Notice where your triggers lie, what words or actions stir unrest within you. This is the foundation of mastery. Understanding yourself so deeply that you can choose your response rather than being driven by impulse. Next, practice emotional regulation. When the narcissist's words or actions ignite anger, fear, or doubt, do not let these emotions dictate your behavior. Instead, breathe into the discomfort. Acknowledge it. Let it pass through you like a storm cloud drifting across the sky, temporary and ever-changing. Cultivate mental reframing. See manipulations not as personal attacks, but as reflections of the narcissist's own wounds and limitations. This shift turns their powerlessness into your liberation. You no longer need to defend. You only need to observe. Build boundaries with clarity and compassion. Know what you will and will not tolerate, not as a threat, but as an act of self-respect. When a boundary is crossed, enforce it consistently and without apology. Your boundaries are the walls of your fortress, keeping intruders at bay. Daily rituals anchor your strength. This could be meditation to still your mind, journaling to clarify your thoughts, or physical exercise to ground your energy. Rituals connect you to your power in tangible ways, creating resilience that withstands external storms. Engage in regular reflection. Ask yourself, Am I living in alignment with my truth? Where am I giving away my power? What steps can I take today to reclaim my sovereignty? Reflection keeps you honest, awake, and evolving. And above all, cultivate gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance, from victimhood to agency. It reminds you of what you have: strength, clarity, freedom, rather than what you lack. With these disciplines, your mind transforms into a fortress, not a cold, impenetrable prison, but a sanctuary of peace and power. From here, you operate not from fear or reaction, but from centered intention. And in this space, the narcissist's attempts to manipulate and control become futile. Your presence alone dismantles their illusions. This is the mastery Carl Jung calls individuation, the journey from fragmentation to wholeness, from external validation to internal sovereignty. It is not easy, it is not quick, but it is the most powerful revolution you will ever lead. First, master the art of controlled transparency. Narcissists feed on information. Every emotional reaction, every vulnerability, every doubt is a weapon in their hands. Be mindful about what you share. Reveal just enough to maintain connection without giving them ammunition. Let your words be deliberate, your expressions measured. You are not a book to be devoured. You are a fortress with selective gates. Second, develop strategic empathy. This is not the naive empathy that allows manipulation, but a practiced understanding of their psychological patterns. Recognize their fears of abandonment, their hunger for control, their desperate need for admiration. When you understand what drives them, you lose the fear they try to provoke. You see their behavior as a cry for help rather than a personal attack. Third, employ mirror neutrality. When a narcissist tries to provoke, reflect their behavior neutrally without judgment or escalation. If they raise their voice, keep yours calm. If they accuse, acknowledge the statement without defending or attacking. I hear that you feel this way. And this breaks their cycle of conflict because it denies them the emotional reaction they crave. Fourth, use calibrated disengagement. You do not have to engage in every battle. When the narcissist escalates, know when to step back physically or emotionally. Disengagement is not retreat. It is a strategic repositioning. It preserves your energy and denies them the gratification of control. Fifth, cultivate presence through body language. Your posture, eye contact, and tone convey messages deeper than words. Stand tall, grounded, and relaxed. Look directly but without aggression. Speak slowly and with intention. Your body signals strength and calm that words alone cannot convey. Sixth, build future-oriented focus. Narcissists dwell in past grievances and immediate gratification. You shift the conversation towards solutions, growth, and your goals. This refocuses energy away from drama and towards constructive outcomes. Finally, practice self-reinforcement. After every interaction, reinforce your boundaries and your worth internally. Remind yourself that their attempts to manipulate reflect their limitations, not your value. Celebrate your victories, no matter how small. These strategies, layered and practiced, create a shield no narcissist can penetrate. You become the calm center in their storm, the immovable force they cannot sway. Jung's wisdom guides us here by integrating our shadow, strengthening ourself, and standing firm in our truth. We move beyond victimhood into sovereignty. This is not just defense, it is transformation. It is the reclaiming of your power in a world designed to erode it. And that is what destroys a narcissist in seconds. Not anger, not confrontation, but the unyielding presence of a soul that refuses to be controlled. Resilience is not simply bouncing back, it is bouncing forward. It is the ability to absorb shocks, to withstand storms, and to emerge stronger, wiser, and more grounded each time. In the face of narcissistic manipulation, resilience is your anchor and your sword. Begin by nurturing psychological flexibility. Life with narcissists is unpredictable. Tactics shift, moods swing, and realities twist. Rigid minds break. Flexible minds bend without breaking. This means embracing uncertainty, letting go of control, and adapting without losing your core. It means knowing when to hold firm and when to flow. Next, build emotional endurance. This is not numbness but depth, the capacity to experience discomfort without being overwhelmed. It comes from consistent self-care, reflective practices, and the courage to face your emotions fully without escape. Emotional endurance turns pain into insight and triggers into teachers. Cultivate purpose-driven focus. When your life is anchored in clear values and meaningful goals, the narcissist's distractions lose their grip. Purpose acts as a compass, guiding your actions and decisions through the fog of manipulation. It reminds you why you endure, why you resist, and what you are building beyond the conflict. Developa supportive inner dialogue. Your self-talk shapes your resilience. Replace criticism and doubt with affirmations of strength and worthiness. Speak to yourself as a loyal ally, a compassionate guide, and an unwavering defender. This internal support cushions the blows and fuels your perseverance. Practice boundary renewal. Boundaries are not set once and forgotten. They require regular assessment and adjustment as situations evolve. Renewing your boundaries keeps them sharp and relevant, preventing gradual erosion. It signals to yourself and others that your sovereignty is alive and non-negotiable. Engage in restorative rituals. These are personal practices that recharge your spirit: meditation, nature walks, creative expression, or simply moments of stillness. Rituals restore balance, replenish energy, and reconnect you with your deeper self. And never underestimate the power of reflection. Regularly review your experiences, learn from setbacks, and celebrate progress. Reflection transforms resilience from reactive endurance into proactive mastery. Through these habits, resilience becomes your daily armor, your ever-renewing wellspring of power. It ensures that even when narcissists attempt to destabilize you, your foundation remains unshaken. Jung's journey of individuation is, at its core, a path of resilience, transforming fragmented selves into unified wholeness. This resilience is not merely survival. It is thriving in the presence of challenge. And with it, you move beyond destruction to creation, beyond resistance to sovereignty, beyond victimhood to mastery. This is the legacy you claim: a mind so strong, a spirit so free that no narcissist can ever dim your light again. And so, the final truth emerges. Mastery over narcissism is mastery over yourself. It is the lifelong cultivation of clarity, discipline, and unwavering self-worth. A journey that transforms every wound into wisdom, every challenge into strength. This is not a fleeting victory. It is an enduring revolution of the soul. You become a force that moves through the world, not with noise, but with profound presence. Not with dominance, but with unshakable peace. Not by breaking others, but by refusing to be broken. And in this refusal, the narcissist's power shatters. Not with a shout, but with the quiet, unstoppable certainty of a mind that knows its own light. You are no longer a player in their game. You are the sovereign of your own life. A mind so strong, it terrifies manipulation itself. This is your awakening, your reclamation, your power. Step into it fully, live it fiercely, and never ever give it away again.